Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. Today we're going to go over last night's national championship game between UConn and San Diego State, and then do a little what's to come after that around the sport and speculate and whatnot. NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball from yesterday. Look ahead to everything today. Soccer, the portfolio, my third portfolio pick of the new segment that I unleashed 2 weeks ago. News and notes and best bet. We'll start with the natty. UConn was just a machine this entire NCAA tournament. San Diego State made a push, but just like Miami, did it really matter? UConn wins it 76-59 as they win their fifth national championship in school history. It's their third national championship, or third different coach winning it with, the first two being Jim Calhoun and Kevin Ollie, and now Dan Hurley. UConn finishes the year 31-8. San Diego State finishes 32-7. Tristan Newton, 19 points, 10 boards in the game, and Kashad Johnson had 14 for San Diego State. And then the MVP of the tournament, of course, was Adama Sanogo, who was the best player on this UConn team all year long. He had a 17-10 in last night's game. But yeah, it's interesting with UConn. They're the most unlikely title winner since UConn in 2014 with Kevin Ollie. But this team was way better than that team. Way better, in my opinion. Way more talented, a better coach. Obviously, a better seed. They were a 4 seed compared to being a 17 in 2014. And San Diego State, probably the most unlikely team in the title game, maybe since Butler in 2010 and 2011, or you could even make a case Texas Tech back in 2019, meaning like most unlikely runner-up, I should say. So, San Diego State has a lot to be proud of this year. I think their coach has really built something great with this program, and I'm sure that the coach has gotten offers from other schools to become their head coach, but Brian Dutcher really has just stuck around to San Diego State. He's been there since 2017, and he's been in the tournament almost every year. The COVID year, he would have made it. They lost in the first round in 17-18, 2021, and 21-22. 18-19 was his worst year there. They didn't make the tournament. They were NIT that year. And then this was his best year yet. So this school has to lock him up. I don't think he wants to leave, but I think Brian Dutcher deserves a raise for sure, as does, of course, Dan Hurley at UConn. So, like I said, great game. And then other notable lines for San Diego State, Lamont Butler 13, 4-2, and Darion Trammell 13 points in defeat as well. Congrats to UConn. They deserve it. It became clear that they were going to win the title, I felt, after they killed Gonzaga. Because I personally felt that the winner of that game, the Gonzaga-UConn game, was winning the title. But sometimes it sometimes doesn't work out like that. But this year, it just so happened to work out like that. All right, what's next? We're going to start with UConn. I think that they're going to be back next year. Andre Jackson is staying at UConn. He says, only way I'm not coming back is if coach tells me to leave. So good for Andre Jackson. We'll see about Newton, and we'll see about Adama Sanogo. But if they're back, they should be the team to beat in the Big East next year. San Diego State, depending on what happens with their lead guys, Trammell's a senior. He's going to be gone unless he uses an extra year of eligibility. But Lamont Butler should be back. Matt Bradley's a senior. And the other of note player, Trammell is a senior too. So they might have a little bit turnover, San Diego State, but they have been like a next man up kind of program. So that conference is actually really good. So I'm not like convinced that San Diego State is going to be as good as they were this year. UConn, depending on what happens with their big three, Adama Sanogo and Andre Jackson looks like he's staying, and then Tristan Newton, they should be the team to beat in the Big East next year. And we're going to stick in the Big East. Teams that I think will probably bounce back, St. John's because of Patino, Georgetown a little bit because of Ed Cooley, and Cooley's already gotten some guys there, and also Seton Hall could be a sneaky bounce back team, year two under Shaheem Holloway. And then teams that are on the downward slide, I think, are Providence because they lost Ed Cooley, and potentially Marquette because they just had the dream season last year. And it'll do the Mountain West because they're talking about San Diego State. San Diego State, I would not be completely stunned if they didn't win that conference next year. So I could see them taking a step back. We'll see about Utah State. We'll see about Boise. Nevada, we'll see. Those are the other three teams that made the tournament this year. Potential bounce-back teams, UNLV. I mean, UNLV hasn't been amazing in a while. Wyoming, you could point to as a possible bounce-back team after having a disastrous year. Same for Colorado State. I wonder what's going to happen with New Mexico, who got off to a great start this past season and then faltered at the end of the year. Big 12, I think Kansas State could be headed for regression depending on what happens with Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel. Bounce-back team in that conference, probably Oklahoma, if I had to guess. And this is without knowing like who's going to transfer and who's going to come back and such. This is just pure speculation on my end. Big 10, I think Wisconsin's a possible bounce-back team in that conference. And the team that's going to fall off, I hate to say this because they had a dream year this past, not a dream season like Kansas State did, but Penn State you would think is going to take potentially a step back with Micah Shrewsbury headed to Notre Dame. And Mike Rhodes comes over from VCU to become the coach at Penn State, but we don't know how that's going to play out in year one. But long term, I think that's an excellent hire because Rhodes did deserve an opportunity to jump from VCU to coach somewhere else. So Penn State would be the logical answer for most likely to take a step back in the Big Ten. And in Purdue, if Zach Edey leaves, which I think he is going to declare for the draft. The ACC, North Carolina, you would think is the ultimate bounce-back team, right? If they bring some of the band back together. Looks like Baycott's coming back. Caleb Love could be a Ewing theory candidate for next year, and say if they hit with some of these like younger kids coming in. So by default, you would think North Carolina is a bounce-back team. And even Louisville, from like a win standpoint, they go from, 4 wins to 10 wins? I mean, that's improvement but on paper, but it's really not improvement for a program with high standards like Louisville. So I'm not even putting Louisville in the bounce-back conversation unless they make, dare I say, the tournament next year. I mean, even the NIT, I think Louisville fans might not even look at that as a successful season because, that fan base is like Kentucky. They're, up your butt about everything. Notre Dame's a bounce-back team, obviously, in the ACC next year with Shrewsbury replacing Mike Bray. You would think they're going to be better. And then, teams that are going to take a step back, probably Pitt would be a guess, who came close to winning the conference. Miami, depending on what happens with Isaiah Wong and Miller, I think could take a step back. I don't think Syracuse is going to be better without Jim Boeheim. That'd be a fun Ewing theory in college basketball next year. Like we talked about Caleb Love. How about Jim Boeheim is a good one. That'd be a really good one for a Ewing theory for next year. And then Clemson, they're kind of a we'll see. I'd say they probably take a step back because they had a good year even though they didn't make the tournament. They had a good year by Clemson standards. The Pac-12, Oregon's the logical bounce-back team. Dana Altman, they're probably going to be better. And then I failed to mention Michigan as a potential bounce-back team in the Big Ten, but they're going to lose Hunter Dickinson, so that could affect them. But I wouldn't be stunned if that team bounced back. And then they're losing the coach's son, too. So Oregon would be my pick, the most logical pick to bounce back in the Pac-12. And regression, potentially USC, depending on what happens with Boogie Ellis and some of their core guys there. That would be if you had to ask me who takes a step back. UCLA reloads every year, it feels like. Depending on what happens with that team, maybe they take a step back. Same with Arizona. And then the SEC, you think Kentucky on paper is going to bounce back. I mean, everyone's saying that was the Carolina of the SEC this year. From a coverage standpoint of how disappointing they were, yes. But at least Kentucky made the tournament and made the round of 32. I mean, they were a 9-0 run from Kansas State. If that doesn't happen, they're in the Sweet 16 and potentially even the Elite Eight. Maybe they beat Florida Atlantic. Maybe maybe they would have won the national championship. Who the hell knows? With how crazy this tournament was. If it wasn't for that, maybe Kentucky goes on a run. So, by their standards, maybe they quote unquote bounce back. And then the other few that stand out. Georgia, do they bounce back? I think the Gators of Florida is a logical bounce back team. Regression, Alabama, because Brandon Miller's going to the draft. There was some other guys to the draft too, so you would think Alabama might take a step back. Vandy had a good year despite not making the tournament, or we should say they had a hot last couple of weeks to get them in a good seeding for the NIT. But they still had a decent year, per se, for that school. I mean, Missouri, is that a potential bounce back in the SEC? So, yeah, I think there's more possible bounce back teams in that conference rather than regression teams other than Alabama and maybe even Texas A&M is a regression team too. And then the American, don't forget the American Conference is going to be losing Houston and Cincinnati and I think Memphis too. So the AAC next year is going to look very different. Charlotte's in it. Florida Atlantic's in it. North Texas, Rice. UAB, UTSA. With Tulsa, Tulane Temple, South Florida, SMU, Navy for football only, Memphis, East Carolina. So that is going to be interesting, that league. I mean, Florida Atlantic going to the American, I think, will still be good, but from a record standpoint, they probably regress. UAB and North Texas are going to be good next year. The American in basketball next year is going to be good because I think that North Texas and UAB and Florida Atlantic were better than half the American in basketball this past year. But in terms of the other teams in that league, possible bounce backs. And even Rice wasn't bad last year. And Charlotte was not terrible either. So the American's going to be good next year despite losing some big names. So Temple, you would think, might bounce back in college basketball a little bit. SMU, you would think, is going to be better. And then in terms of Big 12 bounce backs, you would think Cincinnati might be better, although it might take a while. And then the obvious bounce back pick in the American in basketball would be Wichita State. We talked about the Mountain West already. The WCC, BYU, you would think would be better. San Francisco, maybe. Santa Clara is probably a regression team. Gonzaga and St. Mary's are always Gonzaga and St. Mary's. Never doubt St. Mary's. And then the A-10, you would think Dayton's going to be better. VCU's always good. But they might now take a step back with their coach leaving. So Davidson, I think, could be a bounce-back team in that conference. Richmond. George Mason has a new coach, so I don't know about them. But the obvious regression team in that conference is Fordham. I'm sorry. If I had to pick like a regression team in that conference, it's probably Fordham. All right, so there you have it for a fun little college basketball What's Next segment. Now we'll move on to the NBA. We will recap the games from yesterday and look ahead. I'm sorry, there were no games yesterday. We'll just look ahead to today's games. 7 o'clock tonight, we have the Raptors and the Hornets. My line's Raptors 16 3/4, total 226 3/4. And we have here the Raptors by 14 after total 223. Over. Heat Pistons. My line is the Heat by 14, total 224 and a tenth. And it's 12.5 and 220. Take another over. A lot of overs. We're usually on unders here. Or we usually give out overs. Or unders, my bad. Cavs Magic. My line is the Cavs by 4 1/4, total 222 3/5. And it's 5 and 221.5. I was hoping this line would be higher. Because I think the Magic are kind of live in this game. The Cavs are locked into that 4 seed. Probably playing the Knicks in round 1. Still looking ahead of that potential Knicks series. So a slight over. So 3 overs to kick it off. Bucks Wizards. Mine's Bucks 13, total 228 and 9/20. And it's 13 and 230.5. Another over. No. Never mind. This one's an under, actually. And I actually like the under here. No Middleton. And then no anybody on the Wizards, really, except for Kuzma. 7:30, Timberwolves Nets. My line is Brooklyn 5.5, total 228 and 17/20. And we got Minnesota by 2, total 225. What the heck? Why is Minnesota favored? Listen, the Brooklyn Nets are still playing hard for Jacques Vaughn. That team kind of has a new life. I know they haven't been playing great lately, but they're home. There's still a chance they might catch the Knicks and no Julius Randle right now. I mean, Brooklyn is something to play for. Give me the Nets plus the 2 and plus 108 outright. The big one, 8 o'clock, TNT, Celtics, Sixers. Joel Embiid could lock up the MVP tonight with a monster performance and a Philly win. I have the Sixers by 1.5, total 227 and 19/20, and it's 2.5 and 227. I hate to pick the Celtics against the spread here. I hate to. Yours truly has an Embiid MVP at plus 850 from January. But that does present a nice hedge opportunity in case Embiid doesn't play well, or if Jokic plays and just destroys the Rockets, or Giannis gets back in the race and destroys the Wizards and puts up a 40-20-10. So, for the pick here, I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to do I kind of think this game might go to overtime, so I'm going to just do it for fun. Overtime, 14-1. And this is game of the year potential. And this is obviously a rematch from the game where Jason Tatum infamously hit that game-winning shot on ABC. Only for Joel Embiid to throw a shot like for full court that goes in but doesn't count. That was the game of the year. And the rematch could surpass that if it lives up to the hype. So that's why I'm going to go overtime at 14-1. There's a lot on the line in this game. Hawks, Bulls. I have Bulls by 3, total 231, and it's 3 and 235 under. Nuggets, Rockets. My line is the Nuggets 8 3/4, total 229, and it's 8.5 and 230. Slide under. Blazers, Grizzlies. My line is the Grizzlies by a whopping 23, total 229 and 3/5, and it's 17.5 and 228.5. I'm laying it with Memphis, even though that's a large number. Kings, Pelicans. My line is the Kings by 6 and 3.25, total 233 and a 10th. And it's New Orleans 3.5, total 236. Why on earth is the Pelicans favored? Like, is Sabonis and Fox sitting? And where's Zion? Not playing. That's one of the dumbest freaking lines I've seen all season long. Like, is Fox not playing? Is Domantas Sabonis not playing? Why on earth is that line like that? The Pelicans are not good, and the Kings are. Give me Sacramento plus 3.5 and plus 132 outright. Lakers, Jazz, 9 o'clock. My line is the Lakers by 5, total 234, and it's 8.5 and 237.5. So I have a 3.5 point edge on the under and a 3.5 point edge on the Jazz. I'm going to go with the under because the Jazz are missing a lot of guys. I mean, taking the Jazz would be interesting because there's a chance Davis doesn't play. So taking the Jazz, getting the 8.5 would be interesting as well, but I'm going to play it safe and take the under. Because the Lakers are just playing good basketball, and I just don't want to go against them, even though my numbers say to do so. 10 o'clock, Thunder, Warriors. My line's Warriors, 3.5, total 234 and 9/10, and it's 8 and 242. That's high, but so is the total. I like the under. But there's rumors about Wiggins coming back tonight, but we'll see. I think the under is a safe play. And then Spurs, Suns. My line's Suns, 16.5, total 230 and a 5th, and it's 18.5 and 236.5 under. All right, now we'll move on to hockey. We'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to the games being played tonight. Alrighty. Golden Knights over the Wild 4-3 in a shootout. Stars over the Preds 5-1. Kraken over the Coyotes 8-1. Impressive win for the Kraken. A lot of games tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Senators at the Canes. Canes minus 265, Sens plus 215, over under 6.5, overs plus 108, unders minus 132. Sens plus 1.5 is minus 115, Canes minus 1.5 is minus 104. Tough one. Carolina can clinch the division tonight, I think, with the win, and maybe a Devils loss to Pittsburgh. Ottawa isn't that bad, so I'm going to take it on the puck line, plus 1.5 at minus 115. Sabres, Panthers. Panthers minus 194, Sabres plus 160, over under 7.5, overs plus 126, unders minus 154. Sabres plus 1.5 is minus 140. Panthers minus 1.5 is plus 116. Panthers fighting for their playoff lives. They need the game. I'm going to take them. This is a crazy pick, but I'm going to go over 4.5 goals at plus 130. Red Wings, Canadiens. Red Wings minus 120, Habs even money, over under 6.5. Overs minus 108, unders minus 112. Red Wings minus 1.5 is plus 188. Canadiens plus 1.5 is minus 230. I like the under. Penguins, Devils from The Rock. Big game for New Jersey. They're minus 156 favorites. Pens plus 130, over under 6.5. Overs minus 130, unders plus 106. Pens plus 1.5 is minus 176. Devils minus 1.5 is plus 146. I'm going to go with over 3.5 Devil goals at minus 118. Jackets, Leafs. Leafs minus 400, Jackets plus 310, over under 6.5. Overs minus 144, unders plus 118. Columbus plus 1.5 is plus 132. Leafs minus 1.5 is minus 160. Toronto's locked into that Tampa series. They don't have much to play for. And maybe home ice. But I'm going to take Columbus on the puck line, plus 1.5 at plus 132. ESPN tonight, Golden Knights, Predators. Vegas minus 137, Preds plus 114, over under 6.5. Overs plus 114, unders minus 140. Vegas minus 1.5 is plus 180. Nashville plus 1.5 is minus 220. I'm going to go over 6.5 goals, plus 114. Flyers, Blues. Blues minus 132, Flyers plus 110, over under 6.5, minus 110 each way. Flyers plus 1.5 is minus 15. Blues minus 1.5 is plus 176. I like the over. Blackhawks, Flames at 9. Flames minus 420, Blackhawks plus 320, over under 6.5. Overs even money, unders minus 122. Blackhawks plus 1.5 is plus 132. Flames minus 1.5 is minus 160. Over. Kraken, Canucks at 10. Kraken minus 11. Vancouver minus 1.8. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 130. Unders plus 106. Seattle minus 1.5 is plus 198. Vancouver plus 1.5 is minus 245. Why on earth is the Kraken only minus 111? They're way better than Vancouver this year. So I'm going to lay it minus 111. That could be the Vegas nose. That is almost as bad as the Pelicans line against the Kings. That's the whack line of the night. Oilers, Kings at 10:30. Oilers minus 125, Kings plus 104, over under 6.5. Overs minus 118, unders minus 104. Oilers minus 1.5 is plus 188. Kings plus 1.5 is minus 230. Rematch of the playoffs last year. I like the Kings at home at plus 104 to win outright. And then Avs, Sharks. Avs minus 255, Sharks plus 205, over under 6.5. Overs minus 106, unders minus 114. Avs minus 1.5 is minus 102. Sharks plus 1.5 is minus 118. I like the over in that one as well. Before we move on to baseball, I want to go over where things stand in the standings. We forgot to do this yesterday. We did it for the NBA, but we have to do it for hockey. So, your Atlantic Division 3-2, where things stand right now, is Toronto, Tampa. That's locked in as your 3-2. The Metro 3-2 right now is Devils, Rangers. The Devils can clinch home ice potentially with the win over Pittsburgh. So, Atlantic division winner, Boston, that's your President's Trophy winner, is going to play the second wild card where things stand right now. It looks like it might be Pittsburgh. And then the Islanders would play Carolina. And then the Western Conference Central, Dallas and Minnesota are tied for first right now in the division, but Dallas has the tiebreaker right now because of the regulation wins thing. Minnesota, Colorado would be the 3-2. LA, Edmonton would be the 3-2 in the Pacific. That's a rematch from last year. Vegas would play the Jets. And then Seattle would play Dallas. And Seattle, that was an important win for them last night. They haven't clinched yet, but they're close. And I want to see if there's any clinching scenarios tonight. It doesn't say. In terms of if anybody can clinch. We'll find that out as the day goes on. All right, on the baseball, we'll go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's slate. Or I should say today's slate because there's day games today. Brewers over the Mets 10-0. Giants over the White Sox 12-3. Reds over the Cubs 7-6. Twins over the Marlins 11-1. Rays over the Nats 6-2. Yanks over the Phils 8-1. Pirates over the Red Sox 7-6. Royals over the Blue Jays 9-5. Braves over the Cards 8-4. Orioles over the Rangers 2-0, so best bet lost. Tigers over the Astros 7-6-11. That's a stunner. Angels beat the Mariners 7-3. Guardians over the A's 12-11-10. So I believe last night produced our first 2 extra inning games of the year. Padres over the Diamondbacks 5-4 on a walk-off home run by the second baseman, Ha-Seong Kim. And the Dodgers killed the Rockies 13-4. All right, today's games. 4 o'clock, give the D-backs and the Padres, Zach Gallen and Yu Darvish making his debut. The Pods are minus 146. The D-backs are plus 124 over under 7. Overs minus 124. Unders plus 102. D-backs plus 1.5 is minus 176. Padres minus 1.5 is plus 146. For this game, I'm going to go over Padre runs. Over 4 Padre runs and my plus 106. Cubs Reds at 6:30. Hayden Wisniewski and Luis Sessa both making their season debuts. Cubs minus 130. Reds plus 110 over under 9. Overs minus 120. Unders minus 102. Cubs minus 1.5 is plus 122. Reds plus 1.5 is minus 146. For this game, I am going to go with Reds under 4 runs plus 102. Twins Marlins. Kenta Maeda making his season debut against Sandy Alcantara. Marlins minus 144. Twins plus 122 over under 7. Overs minus 106. Unders minus 114. Twins plus 1.5 is minus 184. Marlins minus 1.5 is plus 152. I like the under in that game. On TBS tonight, Phillies Yankees. Domingo Germán against Matt Strom. Yanks minus 158. Phils plus 134 over under 8.5. Overs minus 122. Unders even money. Phils plus 1.5 is minus 154. Yankees minus 1.5 is plus 128. The Phillies aren't going to start 0-6, right? They just can't. I get it. They don't have Bryce Harper. They don't have Rhys Hoskins. They don't have Ranger Suarez. They don't have Andrew Painter. But I just don't see them starting 0-6. I have a feeling they're either going to win today or tomorrow. I just don't know which game. But I don't... Plus 134 is their money line. I'm going to go with an easier bet. I'm going to say Phillies total over 4 runs, plus 102. I don't like Domingo Germán against some of these Philly batters. Rays Nats. Josh Fleming, Chad Cole both making their debuts this season. Rays minus 178. Nats plus 150 over under 9, minus 110 each way. Rays -1.5 and Nats +1.5 is -110 each way as well. That's a high total. And I think that could be a push. I'm going to go Rays over 5 runs, -110. Pirates, Red Sox. Ronci Contreras and Nick Pivetta both making their debuts. Sox -148, Pirates +126, over under 9, overs -104, and there's -118. Pittsburgh +1.5 is -162, Red Sox -1.5 is +134. I'm going to go with the over 9, -104. 7:30 Mets Brewers. Max Scherzer and Wade Miley, and Miley's making his debut. Mets -162, Miley and the Brewers +136, over under 8, overs -118, unders -104. Mets -1.5 is +104, Brewers +1.5 is -124. Max Scherzer in his debut was great outside of that 6th inning against the Marlins last week. So the pick's under 3.5, Brewers runs at -115. Blue Jays Royals. Yusei Kikuchi and Chris Bubic both making their debuts for the season. Jays -172, Royals +144, over under 10. Overs -115, unders -105. Jays -1.5 and Royals +1.5 -110 each way. I'm going with the over. Braves Cardinals 7:45. Dylan Dodd and Steven Matz both making their debuts this season. Cards -134, Braves +116, over under 10. Overs -108, unders -112. Braves +1.5 is -162. Cards -1.5 is +134. I'm just going to take the Braves straight up +116. It's just throwing your hands up and don't know, because it's just weird numbers. Orioles Rangers at 8. Tyler Wells and Andrew Heaney. Heaney making his debut. Rangers -134. O's +114, over under 8.5, -110 each way. O's +1.5 is -184. Rangers -1.5 is +152. I don't know if I want to go with the O's again. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with the over again, but I'm guaranteeing that's not going to be best bet again. Tigers, Astros, Matt Manning and Framber Valdez. Manning making his season debut. Astros -290, Tigers +235, over under 7.5, -110 each way. Tigers +1.5, +110. Astros -1.5 is -132. I'm going to go with the under. 9:40, Angels, Mariners. Jose Suarez, Luis Castillo. Suarez making his debut. Mariners -172, Angels +144, over under 7, overs -128, unders +104. Angels +1.5 is -156, Mariners -1.5 is +130. The Mariners are 1-4. That's not the best start, and Robbie Ray's on the injured list. I'm gonna go over 4 runs, -106. Guardians A's. Shane Bieber and JP Sears. Sears making his season debut. Guardians -200, A's +168, over under 6.5, overs -128, unders +104. Guardians -1.5 and A's +1.5 -110 each way. I'm gonna take the A's on the run line, +1.5 at -110. I almost said the puck line. I have hockey in my head. And on ESPN Plus tonight at 10 o'clock, the Rockies and the Dodgers. German Marquez and Julio Urias. So both pitchers with their second starts of the year. Dodgers -270, Rockies +220, over under 7.5, overs -112, unders -108. Rockies +1.5 is even money. Dodgers -1.5 is -120. I love the over in that game. All right, now move on to soccer. We have some results to touch on, and we have some big ones today that we have to get into here. We'll start the Premier League. Everton and Tottenham 1-1 draw. And then today, 4 games. 2:45, Bournemouth and Brighton. Brighton -180, Bournemouth +490, draw +330. That's a tough one. I like the draw +330. I think that's a value. Leeds and Nottingham Forest. Leeds -145, Nottingham +420, draw +280. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals, -106. Leicester and Aston Villa. Leicester plus 155. Aston plus 175. Draw plus 230. I'm going with Aston Villa plus 175. That's a good pick. And then 3 o'clock, Chelsea, Liverpool. That's the big one. Chelsea plus 120. Liverpool plus 220. Draw plus 240. Chelsea bounce back spot at home plus 120. All right. Spanish La Liga from yesterday. Valencia, Rayo 1-1 draw. Italian Serie A from yesterday. Empoli over Lecce 1-0 and Sassuolo over and Torino 1-1 draw. And then we also have Coppa Italia semifinals getting underway. First leg, Juventus and Inter Milan at 3 o'clock. Juventus is plus 130. Inter's 2-1. Draws 2-1. Juventus is the pick at plus 130. That's just easy. Copa del Rey, second leg. Semifinals. You have Athletic and Osasuna. Osasuna up 1-0 in aggregate. Athletic minus 10, Osasuna plus 550, draw plus 270. The draw, I believe, clinches it for Osasuna. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals at plus 116. The DFP Pokal, the quarterfinals, 12 o'clock, you have Frankfurt and Union Berlin. Frankfurt minus 105, Union Berlin plus 290, draw plus 210. I'm going to go with the Union Berlin at plus 290. I'm going to go with the pretty big upset here. 245, ESPN2, Bayern and Freiburg. Bayern's 8-1 favorites, Freiburg's 13-1 underdog, draw plus 650. Bayern, I like the over 3.5 goals at minus 108. And then the CONCACAF tonight is back. Tonight, 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. You have Atlas at the Philadelphia Union. It's a big one. And this CONCACAF thing really is throwing off some of these soccer teams, especially the Union. And then LAFC on the other side in the West. We'll get to them tomorrow. The Union are favored at home at minus 145. Atlas is plus 350. The draw is plus 260. You could argue Atlas has some value at plus 350. But I feel like the Union have kind of had this on-off switch that I've kind of noticed since even the playoffs last year when they played in Cincinnati and then NYCFC. And I think they know that this is important. They're home. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals at minus 114. And I think Philly wins. So I would parlay Philly in the over. Then 10 o'clock, you have Lyon and Violet. This is also on Fox Sports 1. Lyon's minus 4,500. Violet is a 50-1 dog. The draw is 17-1. Lyon is just so much better than Violet. I'm going to go under 3.5 goals at plus 172. And that's really it for Notable Soccer. All right, the portfolio. Miami 100-1, rest in peace. That went to tank against the dominant UConn team. So, there's a couple of futures that stand out to me, a couple of long shot futures. So, I was looking at NBA awards and conference winners. So, there's one I kind of want to make, but it's just a super long shot. I don't know if it's going to happen. The Thunder to make the playoffs at plus 790 is freaking great. And then another one jumped out at me, too. The New Orleans Pelicans no to the playoffs at plus 172 is enticing. So I'm going to stay away. So, for futures, I'm going to go look at hockey. And I'm going to do one that's going to get out of the way sooner rather than later. And I'm looking at the Central Division in hockey. Dallas closes the season. Home Flyers, home Golden Knights, at Red Wings, at Blues, home for the Blues. The Minnesota Wild finish at the Penguins, home for the Blues, at the Blackhawks, host the Jets, at the Preds. And the Avalanche, who are favored, finish at the Sharks, at the Kings, at the Ducks, home for the Avs, or home for the Oilers on ESPN, home for the Jets, and then at the Preds. So all their schedules are easy. But there's one that has some value, and that's the Minnesota Wild at plus 490, who are currently tied with Dallas for the division. And all 5 of these games are winnable. So I'm going to take the Minnesota Wild at plus 490, a tenth of a unit on it, to win the Central Division. A small portfolio pick. Nothing crazy. So there you go. All right, news and notes for today. A couple things I want to touch on really quick. We'll start in the NBA. Andrew Wiggins is nearing a comeback as he's expected to be back early this week after missing 21 games due to the family matter. We talked about that earlier. The Mavericks want to re-sign Kyrie Irving. Sources say that Irving will test free agency this summer despite being eligible for extension. Whew. That trade's been an utter disaster so far. That's really... Oh, wait, there's one more big NBA story. And that is Walker Kessler, the rookie center on the Utah Jazz, done for the year in concussion protocol. That's unfortunate. Great year for the Jazz, despite finishing with a losing record. Way better than everybody expected this year. The rare instance where a successful season with a losing record. Rare. Some college basketball stuff. Oral Roberts star Max Ambas to transfer. So that's a big name in the transfer portal. We'll see who lands him. 12.6 million people tuned into the LSU-Iowa women's championship game. The most viewed women's college basketball game ever, with an average of 9.9 million viewers. Almost $1 million. Oops. But that's great for the women's team. Jim Nance's last hurrah was last night. Very emotional. His closing words were, "Thank you for being my friend," which I thought was touching. We'll still see Jim Nance in college, or not college football, in the NFL, as he'll still do games with Tony Romo. He'll still be doing the Masters, and he's just not going to be doing the tournament anymore. He'll be doing the trophy presentations, though, which is kind of cool. So he'll still be involved in March Madness, but not in the way that we're used to. As Ian Eagle will take over next year. Speaking of college football, C.J. Stroud visiting the Texans, so that's interesting. The Ravens offered a deal to Odell Beckham Jr. despite the Lamar Jackson stuff and Jets' interest. So here's something cool. The Tennessee Titans are eyeing a trade for the number 3 pick in the draft, as they want to move up from 11 to 3. Like, are they already giving up on Malik Willis? Like, my goodness. Guess we might have another Josh Rosen situation here, because I don't see why they're wanting to move up. Giants hosting Deion Jones, the former Pro Bowl linebacker. Dalvin Cook is making excellent progress after shoulder surgery, so that's good. Broncos receiver Tim Patrick cleared to do everything after tearing his ACL. A lot of baseball stuff. Anthony Rendon originally got suspended 5 games for altercation with the fan in Oakland, but the suspension was reduced to 4 games due to settlement between the league and the Players Association. Masataka Yoshida hit his first career home run opposite field over the Monster as that fan base went nuts. Carlos Carrasco, clock violation on the first pitch as he starts the game with the 1-0 count before even throwing a pitch. And then they lost 10-0. Liam Hendricks says that he is starting his last round of chemo. So that is good news. Hopefully he gets through this and we see him back on the field soon. Johnny Cueto left his start early against the Twins. The off-season ad for the Marlins. Yanks option Johnny Brito back to AAA after strong MLB debut on Sunday. Part of me wonders if they did that just to use up an extra roster spot and not waste a roster spot because of their pitching situation. So we'll see about that. I wouldn't overreact to that unless he got skipped in the rotation. The NWSL coming to the Bay Area as the league's 14th franchise will begin playing the 2024 season. And then Barca says that Tebas should be resigning as Barcelona releases a statement calling for La Liga president Javier Tebas to resign following a report in La Vanguardia that linked him with providing false information in the in that case. The Negreira case. So we'll see about that. All right, last but not least, best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. I'm going to take the Kings getting the 3.5 against the Pelicans. I'm going to lay a quarter unit on it. I'm appalled that line is that. Eat my crow if some of those Kings stars don't play. But keep doubting the Sacramento Kings, my friends. Just keep doubting the Kings. I know they've kind of regressed lately, but they're not losing this game to the Pelicans. So that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything and looking ahead to everything going on tomorrow, and we'll make our pick for the Masters. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.